Most of you know that it is thanks to the love and support of this community that we have been able to build a village for special needs children living in crisis out in Tanzania. This village is home to nearly 200 children, all of which had nowhere to call a family home and nowhere to live a quality life as they do now. This year we've been very blessed. We have not had to do a single fundraiser, thanks to all of the support from our partners and all of the support from one-time donations from the community. However, right now we are facing a problem. During the pandemic, we had economic turmoil and we had to sell one of our four-wheel drives to be able to survive 1 month with our food bills, etc. We are cooking over 1,000 meals a day and it's not straightforward to provide for all those children. That has left us with a great struggle with transport. We use our four-wheel drives to go onto outreach and to find the children who are living in terrible conditions. Some of them tied up, some of them locked away in the dark, others who recently we shared footage of a child who was meowing like a cat because they had never had human interaction and only interacted with the cat that was coming into the room. Our four-wheel drive at present is 35 years old. It's going strong, but it is under daily use and intense use. Our people carrier is also quite old by now, and that is being used every day to bring children to school and also to hospital. We have another small four-wheel drive that we are using on outreach also, but it is small and it is not as strong and it cannot transport special needs children and wheelchairs. What we have decided to do is to start a fundraiser to first of all buy a minivan that has a wheelchair accessible lift. We can import this van and ensure that we can take our children safely to the local hospital without having to tie wheelchairs to the roof of the car. We also need another four-wheel drive, something strong and robust with 7 seats that can handle the off-road tracks of Tanzania whilst we look for these children and to replace the one that we did lose. The last months we've spent a lot on maintenance on our vehicles because they are being used so heavily and often in ways that they should not be. There is a fundraising page for these vehicles, so if you'd like to find out more or if you'd like to do some fundraising, then please visit the address at the bottom of the screen and the link will be in the description box of this video. Thank you for the love and support. We couldn't have done any of this without you, and as I say, we were blessed this year. Not one fundraiser was needed until now, and that's a testimony to the love and support of this community alone. God bless, guys. Thank you for everything. Bye. In this reality, survival of the fittest is what the avatars of this reality pull you to believe. But even the soul that incarnates in a lion, which comes from a place where that is not true, will sometimes find mercy upon a baby animal that it can't eat, as the soul and its connection to that place of unity and love is so loud that it cuts off the instincts of the fallen vessels that we are within and says, I can't. In other words, love alters the matrix of Satan, the fallen world. Jesus came into this world to set us free, it is said. If you look, the immediate reaction to Yeshua is to heal the sick, is to forgive people, to make them feel good about themselves again, to bring them up out of the bondage of fear and guilt and shame and pain and suffering. Meaning that the author of that pain and suffering was not God, was not the Creator, was not Christ. We are in a fallen world, in a fallen body, but we are not them. And if you believe that you are from that world and from that body, you will live a life of great suffering, of great pain, and of great addiction most of the time. I have learned that despite Satan's power, now let us look at what Satan is. Satan is the rebellion against unification with the Creator and its will. So you have this whole sphere of creation, the generous heart of God pouring forth infinite potential and free will. Yeshua suggested you come in to this 3D matrix, which is heavy and dense, and that you fast and you pray and you subdue the flesh and its connection to this reality, so as the soul that is animating and bringing life into the body can connect to the spirit of the Christic, of the Creator. That is unification, harmonic attunement with the will of that superconsciousness of that field of creation. Satan is the opposite. Satan wishes to supersede it, to control it, to be having its own kingdom. Now, therefore, Satan could be anything that wishes to pursue that road. It could be a collection of beings, a collection of sentient life. It could be hyper-advanced sentient life. It could be fallen angels, etc. However you look at it. Satan wishes for you to rebel and control it, to be the God of your own existence. We have two separate, completely separate roads. And yet fear is something that Satan still holds. And I am blessed by now that I recognize and see with 99% clarity in my life that which Satan fears the most. And that which Satan fears the most is very close to home for most of you. For me to try to show you this, let me try something. Imagine we as a human species continue to evolve technologically, and we continue to grow in our capacities. But as we do become so profoundly technologically advanced, we begin to lose connection to our conscience, to our humanity, as we would call it, to that compassion, to that empathy. And many today in the human story have little to no empathy and compassion. They're deeply psychopathic. But we as a collective species at this time have an exchange going on, where many still hold that compassion, but recognize that we have psychopathic people who are starting wars and so on. The species, however, gets to a point where the ones who have empathy and compassion, they too are over. And so humanity is now this technological species that absolutely believes that the 3D and its rules are the only rules that we follow. Meaning survival of the fittest. We are all in on it. Our empathy and compassion never kicks in. We are robotic in this. And yet as we are in that way, we feel great discomfort. And so our society is based around survival of the fittest, technology and pleasure to try and satiate the discomfort of being separated from the open heart and connection with our empathy and compassion. We decide we're going to travel space. Stay with me, this is important exercise. And we start traveling to other worlds, other planets, perhaps even interdimensionally. We travel to another planet, and we recognize that it has resources that we want. And we say to ourselves, well, let us send our humanoid cyborg slaves that we have created. As we are so technologically advanced, we have these humanoid slave robots. And we produce one generic type. And off the line, that one generic type has many different functions, powers and features. But to serve our energetic purpose and need on this particular planet, we wish for them to not have access to all of their functions. For if they do, we fear that they will not continue to serve us in the manner that we want them to. And so we would need to program the cyborg, and we program it with an image of what it is, and we program it with an image of how it functions in reality, and we program it very clearly, this is all that you are. So it has all of this functionality, but we program its brain, its memory, to say you are just this. And all of these special functions are nothing. They're not even on their register. They don't even know they are there. And this is how you function. This is how you interact with reality, and this is how you influence your reality. And we send them away. The problem we face, however, is that these cyborgs must be intelligent, as they must problem solve for them to serve us. And so we have a concern that they will turn their intelligence inwardly. And as they scan themselves inwardly with their intelligence, they would notice, hey, I have other features. I have other functions, other powers that the program in my mind does not account for. What I have been told I am in my memory is not actually what I am. And so as the cyborgs look internally with their intelligence and self-explore, they'd awaken these features. And those features would mean that the cyborgs are no longer under our control and serving our need on that planet. So we would need to put in some type of firewall to stop the cyborg from self-exploration. We'd have to keep its intelligence focused on the way that we've told it and programmed its memory that it functions. That firewall would need to be something that creates within the cyborg a sense that it absolutely 100% knows what it is, and therefore why would it ever need to self-explore and find out if it's something more? In other words, the firewall we would use would look a lot like arrogance and pride, which is said to be the original sin. If you program a firewall onto that cyborg of arrogance and pride, it will say to itself at the age of 50 years old, say, why on earth would I look with my intelligence at what I am? I already know what a cyborg does. I've lived 50 years in this world, I have memories of this world, and I've been told very clearly what I am. Why on earth would I bother looking inwardly to see if I'm something different? And this is arrogance. This is a lock and key. It's a firewall that stops the cyborg of arrogance. It's a firewall of arrogance, stops the cyborg from turning its intelligence onto itself and exploring what it truly is. Now they have a problem, because all of a sudden a few cyborgs, they overcome the firewall of arrogance. They look internally and they say, hey, I have all of these other functions. I have all of these other abilities. I have all of these other powers, other than the ones that I was told that I have and what I was told everybody here has and nothing more. And as that happens, the cyborg would start trying to preach and minister and tell the other cyborgs around it, hey, I have turned myself inward with my intelligence instead of living in the way that we were told we should and following that program. And I have found that we all have these extra functions. We all have these other abilities and powers, and they are dormant inside of us, but if we simply use our intelligence inwardly, we can unlock them and awaken them, and we can become more powerful and more free, and we don't have to live based upon the program in our memory alone. And as the cyborgs are telling others about this, the others, as the firewall of arrogance has not been conquered, predominantly say, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't see it. I've lived my life. I'm aware. I was told what I was. The cyborgs before me knew what I was and how I function. And so this guy's just malfunctioning. There's something not right with him. Well, now, however, some start to listen. And their firewall, their arrogance firewall, falls down. And as that arrogant firewall falls down, they also begin to say, hey, you know what? I think you're right. I can see from time to time that the way that you are living your life is something that's beyond my reach. And you are telling me that you live that way because you've awakened these new functions. And so the programmer of this species of cyborgs, which is in this instance humanity, sees this. and begins to send programs into the other cyborgs who still believe the initial memory image of what they are and how they interact with reality. And they send programs into them to teach them how to build certain technology. And they steer the collective intelligence of these cyborgs on this planet to build certain technology. And as they build that technology, those who begin to drop the lock and key of the firewall of arrogance are now unable to turn their intelligence inwardly and awaken their dormant functions and powers, because the technology that was brought into the mind of the other cyborgs that should be created in this world is that which drags your intelligence externally. And so those who say, okay, I can believe it, that I do have other functions, I believe, I am certain, I can see you're living your life in a way, and that way is something I've never been able to reach, and you're telling me it's because of these attributes and functions that are dormant inside the system of the vessel that we are. And yet, as I am now addicted to the external world, to the pleasures, the entertainments, etc., etc., I am still unable to bring my intelligence inwardly and awaken those functions myself. If you can follow what I am saying, and I believe you will have, humanity is there. And here today, our arrogance is still that lock and key. Our arrogance is a lock and key that stops us from expanding into more truth, into self-exploration with our intelligence, which allows us to embrace the full capacities and attributes that the human species are born with. You see, humans needed in the fallen world to be animated. To animate them, the energy of God, which is souls, needed to be brought into it. And that energy that is being brought into the human vessel and into this fallen world serves a certain master. And I would question if the creator of this world is a secondary programmer to the original creator. The original programmer of this reality was our source creator. And then a hyper-intelligent collection of beings or being decided they wished to have their own kingdom. Perhaps they wanted to live their own way eternally in some technological recreation of reality, by gathering as much information as possible on Creator and the creation field. And said, how on earth do I fuel this reality of mine? How do I fuel this fallen world of mine? Well, let me drag souls into it from the true reality, and let them live inside my fallen world and see if they fall for it. But as Buddha said, you shouldn't fall for Maya, it's an illusion. Jesus said, you shouldn't fall for the world, Satan's the god of it. You shouldn't fall for the fallen state and the fallen world. You shouldn't fall for the flesh. You should live by the Spirit. And so here we have this position where millions will say, but I know. Why would I look at how a human functions? I already know how a human functions. And I would say I thought that too until I realized I don't know. And when I questioned the very core basic teaching of what I'd been told a human is, how it accesses reality and what capacities it has, new abilities arose inside the vessel through no will or analysis or control of the mind. They were given by the will of Spirit, by the gifts of Spirit, by the presence of our original creator, the original programmer of this reality. In recognizing I did not even know what a human was or how I function, I entered places which are ultimately a space of consciousness you can only call humble, for you're empty and saying, I have no idea. I really don't know. I'm not a knower of anything here. I have no clue. And in that space of yielding, you move into the path of faith and not sight, and their gifts awaken. And so Jesus said, these signs and wonders will follow those who believe. They will cast out devils, they will heal the sick, and they will pray in a new tongue. All of those have manifested in my life. I don't know how to heal people, but I've seen people do healing on me and it be gone and eradicated. I pray every day in the language of spirit, something I didn't realize was legitimate or real, but it manifests now. And that when I do, I get revelation, insight. I send the right message to the right person and something wonderful happens to the children, or for the children. And casting out demons is something that I do. Not as some woo, not as some, it's a reality. And someday I hope I'll bring somebody who is brave enough onto this channel that I have cleared of entities, and they will tell you how they felt afterwards. And I can tell you exactly what I saw as I was doing it. And I can tell you it wasn't me who did it. It was the Christ moving through the vessel sitting here talking to you. It was the power of spirit coming through. And it can only come through when our arrogance is out of the way. But you see, this lock and key of arrogance can have people stuck in the matrix and the initial program of that cyborg you are given. Then they see something and they say, I've reached the destination, and the lock and key locks them again and says, I already know, why would I keep going? And the reality is I haven't reached my destination, and that's why it keeps expanding and new depths of reality keep being revealed in this spiritual walk. The Christian life is a supernatural life, that is a fact. If your life's not supernatural, let go of that initial operating system, and you will see that the supernatural wishes to move in your life, but you have to make space for it. For your mind and your thoughts lock you away from reality here. They truly can. Your belief set, they can lock you away from the expansiveness of this reality. The fallen body does that. Entities are here. And therefore, I tell you this. These entities are sometimes without a body and need a body. I call them demons. These entities have a body and live in another dimension is another factor. So two separate beings here. And they still come here and mistreat humanity. For they seem to wish to enjoy the sensation of the 3D whilst not dwelling within it. And they wish to absorb certain energy of fear and struggle, etc., as a fuel source. If you see that this fallen world of ours is in great despair, war, struggle, suffering, if you see that world leaders are deceiving you, if you see that Big Pharma is deceiving you, what use is it to chop at the fingertips of a hand whose shoulder and heart is in another dimension? What use is that hand reaching into this story of ours? What use is it to attack the fingernails and the fingertips when the hand and the body and the brain and the heart, if there is a heart, that is orchestrating these events of pain and suffering, this mass meticulous deception that is potentially part of the human story, a deception that involves politics, war, economy, weather warfare, predetermined earthquakes and things of this nature, terror attacks. One overarching enemy, not duality and separation. You've got these people and these people. One enemy pulling the strings of anyone who has a corrupted heart in this world. Why chop at the fingertips? And the reason we chop at the fingertips is that we haven't realized that we are an interdimensional species. And the devastating blows we can deal to Satan come from transcending the belief that you are a matter-on-matter program, a matter-on-matter identity, and raising into the other dimensions where you can begin to impact this reality with your spiritual warfare. If a demon is influencing a human to lead us into a narrative that's fearful, like a pandemic or a war or terrorism or something like this, if you take the human out, you just chopped off the fingernail of the hand controlling that situation. But the one who is going to reenact it is still present, for human vessels are plentifully ready to be corrupted by the demonic. But if you bring yourself into the awakened power and awaken all of your dormant functions, of which there are many that I still don't even know about, and we all seem to have our own gifts that are for us and our path. If you embrace that road of spirit and awaken your dormant functions, you will deal devastating blows to Satan and his realm. For you will connect with the original programmer, the source, the creator, instead of this lesser programmer who's creating from its hyper-advanced intelligence. And you will transcend upstream in a river of light. And as you sow your blow upstream in the river of light, in time it will come down and it will overpower the ruler of this world and his minions. And therefore Satan's greatest fear are humans, from what I've seen, who find their way free of the illusion of Maya, that this is reality only, find themselves free of the illusion of the flesh and the fallen world and its allure, and awaken within them their supernatural capacities. For no parliament and no congress can make decisions to bomb innocent people for world domination if there is no demonic influence present inside that room. And yes, some humans simply have a corrupted nature, but even that nature can be healed if we are all embodying the power of our source creator, that core programmer, the Christ. It will heal and transform them. Satan fears only fully actualized humans. Satan does not care if you are a matter on matter belief system of what you are. You can follow any religion, any politics. If you believe you are merely a matter on matter being, then you are never going to be able to overcome spiritual wickedness in high places. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, guys, but spiritual wickedness, higher dimensional forces that are here and influencing us. And that is why Satan's goal, predominantly at this time of our presumable coercion towards the technological state that we are in, is to keep as many human beings' intelligence externalized as possible, distracted as possible, terrorized as possible, fearful as possible, because in all of those states you are in fight or flight and you are simply focused on your external environment to ensure you and your family survive and are safe. But if you disconnect from that, even as bombs are falling, and you go inwardly, and you turn your intelligence to self-exploration, you will start to open functions that are dormant inside the human vessel. Functions you could have had from being a child but were atrophied by our education system, by the birth certificate identity, as I call it. And when you awaken those functions, you can start dealing blows. You can start bringing change into this world. That's what Satan fears. He fears Christic men, Christic women. He fears their power above all things, for it comes from a dimension he cannot reach. And when humans awaken into their power as an interdimensional species, as a spiritual being with profound spiritual influence on this reality, eventually we will, in time, find not rookies like myself, but true beings who can bring the full power of Christ into this reality. Beings that can heal, as I have witnessed in my own life and others. Casting out demons is something I do, and I believe I do quite proficiently by now. And we will see it being born in our children. And we will see our schools and our politics saying, hey everyone, let's take a week to fast and pray so that we can collectively receive the love of God and the divine will for this next stage of our lives. Instead of bickering and arguing from a matter-on-matter stance which completely excludes God, for the carnal mind is enmity to the laws of God. God can't speak to carnality. God can only wipe it out and give birth to the Christ in your actions. This is Satan's greatest fear. Humans who are fully united, or deeply united with their Creator, and the gifts that are perceivably to the matter-on-matter man who must analyse everything and must walk by sight and not faith, appear supernatural, but become everyday functions. You know that you can run and walk, and you're certain of it. Your arrogance might not let you out of that program to say that there's more to it, because you're certain you know what a human is and how it functions. I too was like that. But by now, I've expanded. And in the same way you know you can run and walk, I know humans can deliver people from demons, and I know that demons are here, and I see them, and you can see them too. But you first have to let go of the program and allow yourself to explore the reality of what you are, whilst being safe in the presence of a loving God. And you stay safe in that presence, of course, by living a life whereby you are free of your sin, worldly pursuit. You repent of your sin. You access God through grace, and through that place, through that consecrated life, you will be edified, sanctified, raised up in holiness. And in that place, if you let go of that initial program that told you how a human functions and what it can do, if you can let go of the arrogance that makes you believe 100% that you know what a human's capacities are and how it functions, you will expand. And in time, in the same way you're certain you can walk, and I am certain I can too, you will become certain you can cast out a demon or potentially heal somebody, as I have become completely certain of the same. For we must walk by faith and not sight. Don't walk by the birth certificate identity, guys. Walk by the promise of the gifts of spirit that Christ offered you. I love you all. God bless. Bye.
In 2015, John St. Julien opened the doors to Feather's Tail Children's Village to help alleviate the suffering of special needs children he witnessed in Tanzania. Feather's Tail successfully provides a safe and loving home to over 170 people, proving that every disabled child can have their quality of life drastically improved. John and his team are now expanding to new areas to help more children living in crisis with the help of our wonderful donors who make this work possible. The second children's village is now in the works and will become the blueprint to eliminating the suffering of every special needs child in Tanzania and beyond. The self-sustainable village will be home to over 300 children within the 4 children's homes. The therapy center will focus on providing the best care possible using physical and cognitive therapies. There will be separate houses for single parents with disabled children. The single mothers will have the opportunity to become caretakers of other children, as they likely qualify highly for this work. We have a long way to go to complete the village, and we're working hard to gather the resources to move on to the next phase of the project. And if you feel called to help us build our second children's village, visit www.sharetanzania.com/invisible children and see how you can help partner with us on this project today.